A very warm welcome back from the weekend, everyone. I am Melissa Enoch here with the Money Moves this Monday, October the 27th.
And I'm Grace Agbaragu here at the FMDQ Archives in Lagos. We thank you for joining us at this time on the show.
All right, let's begin with your news now. This Monday, Delta Airlines has launched its first non-stop flight between Atlanta and Marrakesh, becoming the first U.S. carrier to operate this route. The new service operated 3 times a week using a Boeing 767-400er, strengthening U.S.-Morocco connectivity and opening access to over 125 U.S. destinations via Atlanta. Delta said the route expands its African network and will boost business, leisure, and cultural links between the two countries. In earnings news, Access Holdings PLC has reported strong half-year 2025 results, driven by higher interest income and solid performance across its subsidiaries. Gross earnings rose 13.8% year-on-year to 2.5 trillion naira, while net interest income jumped 91.8% to 984.6 billion naira. Profit before tax stood at 320.6 billion naira and profit after tax at 215.9 billion naira. The group's non-banking units, including Access ARM Pensions and Hydrogen Payments, also delivered strong growth. Access Holdings said it remained focused on digital expansion and revenue diversification. In Egypt, the African Export-Import Bank marked the end of the tenure of Professor Benedict Oke-Orama as its president and chairman of the board of directors with a legacy conference. In his farewell speech, Professor Orama reflected on his leadership journey and the bank's achievements, noting that he made the promotion of intra-African trade and investment the arrowhead of Afreximbank's strategy, a conviction he described as the only viable path for Africa's development and economic emancipation. Let's listen.
After 31 years, I stand before you to deliver remarks for the last time as president of the bank. You will agree with me, Your Excellencies, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, that it has been a remarkable journey. When I joined the bank, I knew that I was not joining just another financial institution. I was becoming part of a movement aimed at turning decades-old aspirations of Africans into reality. Although I wasn't the most experienced when I came on board, I took up my responsibilities with great enthusiasm, eager to learn, in full belief that fate had placed me, the bank, and the continent on this path together. Upon assuming office as president of the bank in September 2015, I outlined an agenda for my presidency. At that time, it seemed quite ambitious, even an overreach.
Still in Cairo, the African Export-Import Bank swore in Dr. George Ilombi as its 4th president and chairman of the board of directors, succeeding Professor Benedict Orama. The oath was administered by Nigeria's Finance Minister Wale Edun in a ceremony attended by over 2,000 guests, including African heads of state, business leaders, former Afreximbank presidents, and dignitaries from across Africa and the Caribbean. Let's take a listen.
The oath of office, I will say it and then, of course, you will repeat. I, George Ilombi, appointed President of the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, at the 32nd Annual General Meeting of Shareholders held on 28th June 2025, solemnly declare and undertake before the chairman of the general meeting and before the members of the board of directors that I will abide by the provisions of the agreement for the establishment of the African Export-Import Bank, its charter and rules and regulations, and that I will discharge my duties and functions as laid down therein with loyalty, discretion, and conscience, and I will regulate my conduct as president with the interest of the bank only in view.
I, George Elombi, appointed president of the African Export-Import Bank, Afreximbank, at the 32nd annual meeting of shareholders held on the 28th of June 2025 in Abuja, solemnly declare and undertake before the chairman of the annual general meeting and before the members of the board of directors that I will abide by the provisions of the agreement for the establishment of the African Export-Import Bank, its charter and rules and regulations, and that I will discharge my duties and functions as laid down therein with loyalty, with discretion and conscience, and I will regulate my conduct as president with the interests of the bank only.
Dr. George Elombi, the newly sworn-in president of the Afreximbank, delivered his inaugural speech outlining his vision for advancing intra-African trade, fostering economic growth, and strengthening the bank's role as a catalyst for the continent's development. Let's listen to him.
We will promote and accelerate value addition and strategic minerals processing. We will work to stop the export of our raw potential. By transforming what we produce, building regional value chains, and fostering homegrown industries, we can create jobs, and we will create the jobs, retain the wealth, and drive growth across the continent. We will focus on developing strategic industries that can drive industrialization and job creation. Afreximbank will, therefore, create a new high-impact financing window, specifically for projects that process raw minerals into semi-finished goods or finished goods. We've made some promises. Some of you here seated very directly. To the governor of Ogun State, we made a promise that his fabric processing zone we will take heads on, and the partnerships are there in place. Let's be clear about this. Afreximbank is no longer interested in financing the export of Africa's raw commodities. I know we have many partners in here, and I know you would be sending text messages, calling our colleagues in the regional offices for financing. Let's be clear. If you're calling them so that we go and mine our soils, send our young men deep into the mines so that we export the gold raw and export the manganese raw, the cotton raw, the cocoa raw, in the next 5 to 10 years, we are not interested in those. We intend to establish a strategic minerals development program that to process, to finance entire value chains, from extraction and refining to manufacturing finished components. Instead of exploiting those raw lithium from the Congo, the Democratic Republic of Congo, for instance, we will finance factories to produce lithium-ion batteries locally.
Finally, on News Now, Zimbabwe has secured permanent hosting rights for the Intra-African Trade Fair from 2029, cementing its role as a regional trade hub. The announcement was made during Afreximbank's investiture ceremony in Cairo, where the bank also unveiled a $2 billion facility to boost Zimbabwe's agricultural exports. Afreximbank said the facility will support food security and regional trade through targeted investments in farmers and agri-processors. I am Melissa Enoch, and that's it for today's edition of News Now. The show will return shortly with Grace at the FMDQ Archives Room, giving us our markets round. Stick around. Welcome back to Money Moves. Let's now go over to Grace for the markets round. Hello there, Grace.
Hi, Melissa. Let's now track the first trading day of the week, starting off with the equities. Here in Nigeria, the NGX is 0.10% after its bullish run in the past week. The BRVM was unchanged at 339.36. The Johannesburg Stock Exchange fell 1.24% to around 109,000. While in North Africa, Morocco's MASI declined 0.17%, and the EGX 30 closed on the positive, up 0.16%. And in Kenya, the Nairobi Securities Exchange closed on the positive, up 0.70% to 181.06. Let's do a quick round on the Pan-African currencies. The rand strengthened 0.31% to 17.21, while the naira inched up 0.02% to 1,458.31. The CFA franc slipped 0.43% to 563.27, and the Egyptian pound eased 0.30% to 47.44. The Moroccan dirham declined 0.08%, and the Kenyan shilling was nearly flat at 129.22. Let's switch into the commodities data deck, beginning with energy prices. Brent crude edged down 0.02% to $65.92. WTI is 0.03% to $61.48, and natural gas declined 0.73%. RBOB gasoline fell 0.15% to $1.91 as of 12:54 GMT. And finally, two soft prices. Cocoa fell 3.02% to $6,128. Coffee eased 1.12%, and sugar dropped 2.94% to $14.53. Cotton rose 1.18% to $64.96. White palm oil increased 0.31% to $1,029.69 as of 12:59 GMT. And that's our Money Moves markets today. Back to you, Melissa.
Grace, thank you very much for those market updates. And that's it on today's edition of Money Moves. From all of us here at the FMDQ studios, we say thank you very much for watching and bye for now.